This story occurred to me when I was in middle school. I decided to play hide and seek with my friend Norman in a slightly different way. One day, it was a game of hide and seek while summoning souls. I know we were just stupid teenagers, but what's more important is that we were able to play the game online and cast the summon souls spell exactly as instructed before hiding. I hid in the closet while Norman hid under the bed. How did this get to this point? Norman sprung out of bed like he had been pulled out, swinging his arms like he was struggling, and yelled at me as I peered through the crack of the open doors after hearing Norman shouting. Hey, Max tried to help me, but the side he was looking at was just a wall. I was shocked and had no idea what had just happened when, all of a sudden, Norman yelled wildly and clutched his neck. Then, shortly after, it appeared as though someone was yanking on his limbs. Norman yelled angrily. I immediately called the ambulance and carried Norman out of the house, thinking something had gone horribly wrong. However, as I was leaving the house, I heard a voice from behind that was made up of the voices of numerous children laughing and saying, "Now you're it." I immediately stopped shaking at the shocking sight. Norman's parents hurried to the hospital and tried to blame me, but the doctor made it clear that I did not cause him to act that way. I got so many goosebumps, and my legs loosened, so I fell and dropped Normal to the floor after barely dragging him outside. An ambulance arrived later, and when Normal was frothing at the mouth, his parents tried to blame me. I haven't seen Norman since that day. He moved out soon after, and I still don't know how he was doing. The guilt for not being able to protect Norman at the time still remains inside me. He claimed that Norman's ligaments in his limbs were severely torn, which is definitely not something a middle schooler could do. A few moments later, Norman woke up and claimed that some invisible kids had grabbed and pulled at his arms and legs hysterically. Even though I didn't know what they were, I knew they weren't something I could confront. Since that day, I haven't played hide and seek, but even now, even when I'm alone at home, it feels like I'm with someone. Once, in the early morning, I heard a voice underneath my bed, calling for me. If I had gotten out of the closet and saved him, would he still be hurt? But I was too terrified, even though I didn't know what they were. I thought it was a hallucination and stayed up all night shaking so badly the next time I heard the voice coming from the closet. After that, I heard the voices of children looking for me in many other places, including under the sheets, in the cupboard, in the bathtub, and many other places, so I began carrying a crucifix at all times. Of course, I have never responded to the voices. I ignored them entirely because I want to warn you to never ever cast a spell that summons souls, because although there is a spell to summon souls, there isn't one to send them back. So even though I think this is over yet, because even when I move to different places, they keep following me. Luckily, I am doing well now. I do, however, think this is not over yet. I used to play a lot of hide and seek with my friends when we were young. Team version of the game, though, so it was a little different. Instead of having a lone seeker who tags anyone, we would have a team of seekers and a team of hiders, and for the hiders to win, they would have to get to a certain checkpoint and seekers would win. To tag one of the hiders, the seeker would need to two-hand tap their back, similar to touch football, which began when we all formed our group on the block at the age of 8 and continued until we were about 13 years old. I grew up with a group of neighborhood buddies because I lived in a cul-de-sac with 3 other houses and kids my age living in each one. There were also 4 other kids living outside the cul. Zach, who were also around our age, since there was a lot of open space, trees, and bushes, and each of the houses belonged to one of us. We could use the entire property space for the game as well. In addition, the cul-de-sac was right in front of our town's nature preserve park, so having the woods as an additional hiding place made it more enjoyable. There were only 6 of us on this particular Friday night, so we split up into 2 teams of 3 and played hide and seek instead of going out to flirt with girls. We were the first to hide, and the other team started counting down from 30 as we all went our separate ways to different houses. It happened when I was 11 years old. I sprinted over to my next-door neighbor's house, where my friend had a pretty original concept sitting under a few flower pots on his patio. I carefully moved the flower pots, grabbed the green blanket, folded it over my body, and crept over to the bushes close to the edge of the nature preserve, because our house has a nature preserve border. And my next-door neighbors decided not to have a back fence, so the woods are connected to some of our backyards. I ran into the woods when I heard the backyard gate open and knelt down under a green blanket. I would occasionally lift the blanket to my head to see if anyone was there, and eventually I saw one of my friends sneaking around the backyard looking under the table and other things. So, while they were preoccupied, I waddled on my knees to the backyard of the next house, where I could hear one of my teammates getting caught. I raised the cover over my head to observe what was going on and noticed that my friend was being escorted back outside to the street by a member of the other squad. This was the ideal time for me to make a move. I completely dropped the blanket and looked around one last time before preparing to flee, when the most unexpected thing happened. I heard the sound of a shoe as recently fallen leaves and twigs broke right behind my ears, and before I could turn around, I felt two hands grab my shoulders with a very firm grip. I screamed in agony for a while and managed to break free of the hold, but I was unable to reach the checkpoint because I collided with a seeker just outside the backyard gates. We went outside to the street, where I discovered that both of my teammates had already left, and that the two other seekers were waiting there. "Wait," I said. When I asked them, "If all of you guys are already out here, who was the one who found me in the woods?" They all exchanged confused looks and swore they hadn't even entered the woods. When I realized they were being honest, my heart skipped a few beats before rapidly beating again. When I told them that someone was in the woods and grabbed me violently, they initially didn't believe me, but I eventually persuaded them. We all went to notify our parents, and the police were summoned. Unfortunately for my neighbor friend, his parents built a fourth fence wall dividing the backyard from the woods. We carried on playing flashlight tag and hide, and seek after this incident until we were about 13 years old. Our parents simply mandated that we always carry flashlights going forward, left the backyard lights on, and, of course, forbade us from going into the woods. It makes me happy that I have such wonderful memories of playing with my friends when I was younger, but that doesn't change the fact that this was one of the most horrific moments of my life. Hey guys, I hope you all like the stories. If you do, make sure to watch other videos and share with your friends. About 90% of the viewers have not subscribed. Please do subscribe and I will create more such videos. That's about it. We'll be back soon. Peace.